Put your name on it. Just put your name on it. That's all I say. Be a man or a woman. Put your name on it.
Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
How the fuck you gonna know how to be great if you don't study greatness? Look at the game tape.
Donuts.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're not a bad-looking man, Mr. Gals.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
There's something wrong with us. Something very, very wrong with us.
Oh, hey, buddy. Oh, yeah.
Is in the house. My man Dane, overdue.
Yeah, man.
Somehow you're like the only comedian on earth that doesn't have a podcast. How did you skirt? Because you would have made bank too.
I kind of did though.
Did you?
Because in mid-aughts, I was doing something. Remember Barry Katz used to always say he'd answer his phone, Voice of Doom.
Voice of Doom.
So I started doing a thing on my web page called Voice of Doom, and I would upload MP3. I would record a WAV file, and then I would upload it, and it was like a weekly rant for Monday and Friday.
Yeah, you did do that.
Yeah.
And you kind of still do it sometimes.
Once in a while, but so by the time that everybody was like monetizing podcasts and making it like a legit form of broadcasting and showmanship, I was like tapped out. I was like, I just did this for 10 years, you know?
What is it about you? I'm Jiminy Glick.
What is it about you, Dane?
What is it about you? You're always technologically ahead of the curve by almost a decade. Like MySpace, people joke about it now, but you were the guy. And that was time consuming to answer each individual fan interaction and say, I'm coming to your town at this date.
I was a maniac.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would take the full day because you got to realize too, it was like outside of, I didn't golf. I didn't like video games and stand up were the only things that I was interested in when I got to LA 97, 98. And so I'm sitting there on the computer and I'm gaming and all that. And I'm like, man, if I could turn this somehow into a portal to be able to, communicate with my fans. And I was on AOL Instant Messenger, right? You could people would just write you on G-Dane. Remember G-Dane 19?
What was your screen name?
G-Dane. It was G-Dane 19.
Wow.
You could email him. He would answer back.
Dude, I would answer. So 23 hours of the day before I'd go do a spot. I'm talking like, this is like the year's 2000. I've got my Dell computer tower right there. And I would write people back all day, Jay. I would literally sit there all day. I'd hear, bing. I run into my office. I'd be like this. Okay, this girl just said she heard my file off LimeWire. And I would write back, where are you? What's going on? And I would just constantly, in that way, I built up my email list. And when I'd finally go on a tour, I could hit people with like, here's my dates. Wow. And yeah, man, it was 4 years of every day, all day being tapped into the mainframe.
I must masturbate way more than you, 'cause, like back in the day. Like I don't play golf either. But I'm like, I gave it an hour. Let me go make spin art in the corner of this hotel room. You more than anybody in my life have been my imagined competition at the Laugh Factory. Every single night I walked in there, the question was, is Dane or me going to have the set of the night?
And then Freddie Soto would prove us both wrong.
So.
Freddie could have some bangers in there, though.
Yeah.
There was a couple of guys that could go in.
Well, like Late Show, Tenacious D would close.
Right.
That's not even fair, Tenacious D.
Right.
The greatest band of all time.
We would be kind of like eyeing each other and trying to figure
like
out.
Gunslingers.
Yeah. Yeah. But Jay and I we were kind of getting into it. Like, we've had a real tumultuous, interesting, kind of like in tandem over the years. Do you remember the first time we met?
No.
Do you remember the first day I met Jay? You don't remember this? 1993. Standing outside of the Boston Comedy Club. And this would kind of like sort of incentivize how I saw Jay and I for a very long time. Jay's standing outside, he's sort of holding court. I'm new in the Village. Jay's got his jean jacket on. He's standing outside. He's kind of yapping. He's got a nice little thing going. And I walk up to that circle, and I stand there, and I sort of like wait a beat because he's on one. And Jay, you finally go like, I'll be you, and you be me. Ready? Like I wait, like double Dutch. Like I'm gonna jump in as soon as Jay dovetails and hits the cul-de-sac, I know exactly where to take this topic-wise. But I'm new. I'm still like people getting to know me. Hi, my name is Dane Cook, and I'm gonna be Jay. And all I want you to say is, I'm gonna finish the rant, and then just go. You know what I was just thinking about? You're me. Just say, you know what I was just thinking about? So I'm you coming off the rant, right? Right. And it's Jersey, right? Like, oh, we're all over the place, right? Yeah.
You know what I was just
easy. Bro, it was like emergency brake and fucking like de-escalation, de-accelerate, and it broke me.
Oh,
it
that explains a lot.
And I was waiting for the thing where he'd be like, dude, but he really easy was like, he squelched me.
I thought we met.
And I didn't say a word to him for like the next 3 or 4 months. Because what he didn't realize, and what we were chatting a little bit about today, was I was a real introvert. I was dealing with social anxiety.
It gets sadder. He finally got the courage to talk to me, and I shut him down.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have a big cock, and that's the saving grace. No, but I was
Dane Cook, ratemycock.com.
But that would be the first of sort of like many times over the years that I felt like you and I were, I guess, kind of jockeying for some kind of alpha positioning in whatever groups that we found ourselves in. I feel like
Jay has an ability to like know how to hit you. Like the first time we met was on Adam's podcast, and I was like,
easy.
Yeah. I was just sitting there like watching.
It did feel good.
Yeah, right?
I was sitting there watching two guys and being like, don't interrupt. This is, you're not going to add anything to this. This is great.
Right.
And he goes, what are you, a silent partner? And I was like, fuck, you know, like.
Well, I was encouraging you to get
I know,
involved.
but
that's
that
different
hurt.
than him.
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
You, I was pulling in.
That's what I'm saying. You
my
figured
modality's
out.
a little caustic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He said on his call-in, my modality could be a little caustic. Meanwhile, we got Corey working on the cameras, not distracting at all. I thought we met in Boston at Footprints, and you were in Alan the Monkeys improv group in 1990.
I think that we were on a show together, and I do remember but this was the first time I was sort of gonna hang with you and really like feel like, I guess we're going to parry thrust here, and it's going to be Jay and I, and we're going to take over this little round robin. But the easy was like, not only did it fuck me up, remember there was a fire station right next to the Boston Comedy Club. I literally wanted to open the door and just fucking douse myself with the hose because I was burning up inside it. How he literally grabbed the throttle and just crashed me. It was brutal. But it was as years went by, it was like I was identifying there. We had a lot of similarities, but we were both very, very competitive. Regardless of sort of like all the minutia and the shit that made us kind of fucked up. When we seemingly had it together and we would walk into these rooms, I think we both felt like, man, if I don't pull focus, I'm going to be less than. And we brought that out of each other in a good way. Yeah. Very much so. Hey, can we turn the heat up on this LED?
It's not the LED. It's the room itself. I feel like.
Wow. Oh, it's not this.
No.
I thought the heat was coming off this sucker. Okay. And if we could get this little thing fixed, because I'm kind of seeing it out of the corner of my eye. This little blemish right here. This little bug.
Which one?
Right here. This one.
There's nothing there. What are you talking about? Dane, look. There's times when any athlete and any performer worth their weight in salt has to be aware of when they're being lapped on the racetrack. And the two times that happened in my life, you were the big one. One, I was doing my radio show. I watched, of all people, Keith Olbermann's show, and he had this presentation with pictures and this, and it tied together like a good bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am totally mailing in my radio show. I got to do that. And I started doing that. The other time was at the Laugh Factory. I've told you this, I think, in the past. You were doing a bit about your mom. I was in the back. You were doing a bit about your mom making the bed in the summertime. Yeah. And you go, that sheet would just, because of the humidity, that sheet would just hang in the air for like an hour.
I remember that.
And you went, whew, and you just stayed there. And it got uncomfortable, and you didn't move, and then it got funny, then it got weird, and then it got really funny.
And then I do it again.
And I could see my childhood bedroom on Valley View Road. I could see the sheets. I could see the window that led to the backyard with the fan in it pointing out for some reason. Yeah. Why would our parents fucking... It's hot. It's fucking balls hot in my room. And like, oh, this pulls all the hot air out of the house. Meanwhile, all my friends are outside my window like... But that bit shook me. It shook me to the point where I realized I am a fraud. I am an imposter, and this guy is completely outworking me, and your success has always made complete sense to me. And I don't know anybody that's taken more shit than this guy. Completely off, all this guy does is try to be, you're like Bruce. I've said it in my house. To me, you're like Bruce Wayne. You're this guy, you live on a hill, and you're just trying to figure out how to make everything better.
Bruce Wayne lives in a cave, though. He doesn't live on the hill.
The cave's under the hill.
Oh, okay. I think it was tough because for a lot of people, I didn't know this till many years after I had the good fortune of like hitting an upper echelon, right? So I'm taking this career to heights that, pipe dream heights. And I wouldn't know until, I just mentioned this to you earlier too, 10, 12, 15 years later, where people would then come to me and be like, man, I gave you a lot of shit. And they'd want to either apologize or make amends, because I think that my success, it fucked with a lot of people who felt like, oh man, am I ever going to be able to, is it only him? Am I going to be able to make what I want come to fruition? And for whatever reason, I got under people's skin, and they wanted to, sort of have at me because of that. Because they didn't really nobody could ever sit with me and go, there's a definitive thing you did. It was always from a distance and what they projected onto me.
Yeah, I've never felt that way about you, despite what our earlier emails might say. Always like your success, it kind of doesn't compute to the average. Like you go, okay, I'm going to go to Hollywood. I'm going to get a sitcom, or I might do movies, or I'll do commercials, or I'll just make a shitload of money at colleges. And then Dane comes along and goes, I'm going to play arenas again. And then the next night, I'm going to fill that same arena. And then the third night, it's like, what the fuck is that? Like, it didn't make sense to me, to anybody. It made sense. But your bits, like what you do as a comedian, I'm going to wash your balls a bit. I have such distinct memories of being lapped about shit. There's always a comic that does a bit and you're like, I think I would have thought of that eventually.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, fuck.
Yeah. Because you're like, I go to the car wash. Fuck. Why didn't I notice that at the car wash?
The screeching of tires in a parking garage.
Yeah, the Galleria Mall in Houston. I remember the day I wrote that. I was doing the last stop.
Sunset Lemley 5. Like, you just turn slow. It's like,
yeah. Right?
I love that. Yeah. And I'm like, this fucking guy's so good.
Oh, man.
And then when somebody goes like this, you go like this, somebody in a crosswalk, and they go.
Yeah. They just move the shoulder.
they just kind of go like this.
Yeah,
like if you're being chased by a bear, you would be like, ah! I'm just like, this fucking guy's got it.
It was like hearkening back to some of the stuff I loved growing up, which was like, it was like observational, but I wanted to put my spin on it. You know what I mean? And once, you know how it goes, man, once you finally get that one through line in a routine, even at the beginning of a bit, the tags and the buttons and all that come from, you go like, I got it. I'm onto something that nobody has thought of it from this perspective yet. So that era and that time, and leading it into the arena moment of my life, it was really like, my dad said something when I was really young, and it probably was what made all that stuff really happen, which was, my dad used to say, we went to Faneuil Hall in Boston one time, and we were watching some guy do, he was hyping people up for to do some magic. All right, everybody, here we go. Give me 2 more minutes. And he was kind of getting everybody, and my dad turned to me and he goes, nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd. Wow. I was like, nothing attracts a crowd like
Was it Master Lee?
What? It was beautiful, though. It was like one of those things that I was like, oh, shit, okay. If I can get the little crowd, but I'm ready to give them everything I got there, then they will build it out. It's not up to me to try to get the sitcom, to try to get everybody to notice me all at once on one hit Thursday night show. It's up to me to get 1,000 people together and go, okay, everybody in, and fucking kill to where 1,000 people go out and go, you got to come back. you got to come back, and then let the crowd be the crowd. So that was the whole mentality.
It's like blowing those
dandelions.
Yeah, those dandelion things, and they just go off into the wind.
Yeah.
And each person, I always said like the most important night for me is always Thursday. Like guys are like Saturday night here. It's like no. Thursday's the only night where they're going to go to work the next day.
Yeah.
And talk about what happened the night before.
That's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I always try to fill Thursday. Much less success than you. Your dad, nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd is kind of the coolest shit I've ever heard. Yogi Berra, if people don't want to come, we can't stop them.
And my dad was a baseball guy. So it was like he was always coming with the quips like that. And a couple of them that really stuck, it was that. And the other one that he used to say was he said, play a lot of college. I didn't want to be a college act. Actually, like when I was first working with my managers and stuff, I was refusing it. I was like, oh no, I want to be legitimate. I thought like a club act was legitimate, and I thought a college act was like, foolishness or whatever. And my dad came to me and goes, why aren't you playing more colleges? And he's like, there's so many around New England. And I go, because, and I told him what I thought was best. And he goes, you should play more because the things that you discover in your college years, you take with you for the rest of your life. And no matter what happens with your career, those people will always want to find you and be entertained by you if you entertain them while they're in their college years. It was like revelation moment. And so that's when I dug in, started working with the team and trying to figure out just how to play all these schools and build up that fan base.
I got to take my mom to a World Series game. You got to take your dad to a World Series game. Tell me about taking your dad to a World Series game.
2004.
Cardinals got swept.
Busch Stadium. My dad was pretty sick. Cancer was starting to, slow him down. But I go, Dad, I got these 2 tickets, 4th row behind the Red Sox dugout. And I remember I said, you want to go see history get made? And he goes, fuck yes, I do. And he got up and he put on his, he got that energy. He was pretty lethargic at that point. But
where did he live?
He was back in Boston, where I grew up.
Why'd you have St. Louis? Was it the 4th game?
It was I felt, I was like, we're going to do it tonight.
Yeah. Well, once you're 3-0, it's
yeah. And so I said, let's go. So we meet there. And the thing that's awesome about that night, well, 2 things are awesome. One is when they tore down Busch Stadium, I got in touch with them and they gave me the chairs that my dad and I sat in.
Wow.
So I have the chairs from that night. But the best thing was I took my camera at the time and I just held it up. And when they won, I had this great footage of my dad. He did 2 things that I hadn't seen my dad ever do, which was, first, he jumped up and down, and he was an old school Alston Brighton guy. And if you knew anything about that part of town, he was a badass motherfucker. But he was jumping and then like kissing me on the cheek. And it was just this moment where you're like, oh wow, he got to see this curse get broken, but we got to, do it together. Yeah. And so it was amazing, man. It was probably one of the greatest nights of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
I brought my mom to similarly this sweep of the Padres at Yankee Stadium. I read one article that says they should have shown up in Hawaiian shirts, like they were that like just in awe, touristy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was way the fuck in the bleachers, and the Padres bullpen was here, and we were against the railing. I was here, and my mom was against the railing, and Kevin Brown, of all pitchers, a great pitcher, was getting lit up, and Andy Ashby, their 5th starter, starts warming up, and my little 5'6" Jersey mother, who has no idea who anybody is, she's just there having a good time with her son, goes, "Sit down, Andy, your mommy's calling you." And the whole section's like, yeah! Like how she knew it was Andy Ashby.
Right.
Like just your mommy's calling you. Like she got the whole place fired up. Like I'll never forget that.
Oh, that's so beautiful, man.
You got to take your dad to Busch and you got the seats. Like do you collect a lot of, do you have like tickets from old shows that you've done and like brochure, like, cause that's the one thing I wish I did is kept those college like banners and flyers.
I do. I have like all the old, especially
like Chappelle would open for me.
I have remember the back of the magazine, the college magazine?
Yeah, NACA.
Yeah, so I was like, I have all those original NACAs with all of us, on the back. And I think the thing that I found recently that I thought was so cool is I found the keys to, remember Dick Doherty had all sorts of different places around New England? I found the keys to one of the clubs that I used to go in, and like it was like one of the first places that like they gave me the keys to open the place up and get it all set up.
Really?
And I just sat in my garage and I was like looking at these keys and I'm like, man, if you think about like, you don't realize at the time, like, man, if I didn't take these keys that night and go, I'll do it. You go like, oh, it wouldn't have led to who I met in that play. You know, just it's the butterfly effects, so to speak. And man, it was just looking back now, 34 years in, and finding those keys and being like, man, shit, that was like at a time when I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this long term, but I'm having fun now. You know,
there's nothing about your stand-up early that I remember that would ever lend itself to ambiguity as to whether or not you'd be in it for the long haul. Is that just self-doubt, fear?
I think that it's kind of interesting. It was like, on one hand, I felt like I was a bit of like a soothsayer because I had a moment of clarity when I was 15, and I saw myself playing these arenas. My sister Kelly had seen Steve Martin in one of the arena shows, and she came back and said, I just saw Steve Martin play and she was explaining to me and my mom about the show, and I said to Kelly that night, I said, I'm going to play Madison Square Garden someday.
At 15?
At 15.
Had you done stand-up yet?
No, I was just like watching SNL, but the thing that was so strange about it is I didn't know she'd gone, and I've been having dreams where I was seeing myself on stage. You know, at an arena playing these big shows. And I had a couple of other dreams too that were sort of like, I don't know, like seeing a little bit of the future. And that night, 15, my mom came into the room to say goodnight to me, and she said, you really think you're going to play Madison Square Garden someday? And I go, I think I am. And she goes, I know you are, Mom. She goes, I know you are, because from the moment I felt you inside of my stomach, I knew that you had an amazing adventure ahead of you, Dane. And so tonight's the first night I heard you say something that I really believe.
And I never felt it with your sister. She just laid there. She's a lump.
Yeah, man. So listen, it was you know, it was rough coming out of the gate back in Boston, just because. And again, when I met you in 93, 94, 95,
Boston guys never want to see each other do well.
Yeah, it was
good for you. Look at my face. Good for you. Did the Tonight Show. Fucking big shot.
It was rough and tumbly coming out of Boston at that time. But the good thing was I did have a good little squad around me. You know, Patrice was coming up.
Yeah.
Burr was coming up. I was in a comedy group, Alan the Monkeys.
Patrice is from Boston.
Yeah, Patrice was sitting at the back of Nick's Comedy Stop. Patrice is the guy that said to me something that completely changed my comedy. One night I was being phony and I was up there doing something that was like real far away from probably what I wanted to be doing. He saw it and he goes, and he did that, you know, he just shook his fingers at me and I sat down at the back and he goes, what are you doing? And I go, I'm just trying to figure out blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you can't fuck with the truth. And I go, yeah, I know. But he goes, no, be the truth up there. I go, yeah, but what if I want to be absurd and I like being over the top? He goes, well, don't be a phony. Be the real version of that. And so it kind of brought me back into focusing on like, really, what do I want to be doing up here? Not just wasting time swinging around and fucking. And so Patrice that night was like the person that like that voice of I understood what he was saying, which was just like, you can still be irreverent and foolish and all sorts of things, but if you're not coming from your real sense of humor, it's a waste. You're wasting time.
Okay, 1991.
Yeah.
Me and Cato and Morin are doing one of those Dick Doherty rooms, and it's like it's a Holiday Inn with like just that little lounge.
Yeah.
And there's a black guy in the show that none of us know who he is.
Okay.
And he's, what do you want me to say about you? Just, all right, just I'm from here. His name is Bruiser.
Oh man, yeah.
And Patrice goes up and fucking kills, and we're like, wow, this fucking guy. And I don't know if it was me or Cato or somebody just goes, what's your real name? And he goes, you motherfuckers gonna laugh at me. And we're like, no. He goes, Patrice. And when he said Patrice, we fell out. Like, you're going, this big, giant black guy is going on stage as Bruiser?
Yeah.
You could go up as Patrice? We're like, what's your last name? He's like, O'Neal. We're like, that's even better. And that's when he switched from Bruiser to Patrice.
Oh, man.
The first black guy to call me the N-word.
Patrice.
I was like being knighted. It was on Opie and Anthony. He's like, this, you know what? And I was like, wow, I'm in.
Patrice made me put on his Discman at the back of at the back of a club, and he was the person who said, "Listen to this," and it was Notorious B.I.G. So first time he goes, "I bought this out of a trunk," and so it was like. Patrice was the fucking maker of worlds back then, man. He was really. I used to drive him home. He lived in a real rough part of Boston called Roxbury. And I remember I'd drive him in my mom's 1978 Lincoln Mark V town car, which was fucking turquoise. Sweet. And I would drop Patrice off in Roxbury after our gigs midnight, and he'd lean in the window and he'd go, "All right, here's what you're gonna do, man." I go, "What?" He goes, "I don't care if the light's red, yellow, you don't fucking stop." He goes, "You drive all the way back to that fucking highway." Because I loved him and I wanted to hang out with him, so we I'd end up giving him rides home after gigs and stuff. But he was a good dude, man. I miss that guy a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he's the all-time. Oh wow, what could have been?
Yeah,
more than Freddie Prinze, Robin Harris, Patrice, because he would do crowd work, but the crowd work, it was like fishing. He's like, "You play football? That's just kind of weird. A motherfucker don't play football. You know what I mean? No."
Yeah.
And then if he didn't like what your answer was, he had bits.
Yeah.
The crowd work wasn't like, "You're wearing a gray shirt. You're fucking, what are you, the fucking army man?" It was, "What do you do? Is that with her?" And then somebody would say something that would remind him of a bit, and then he would have 8 minutes about the conversation at that table. You'd watch him like, "There's no fish here." He'd go to the next table. He'd even play football.
He'd even like he'd in the middle of his act be like, "The truth is, I don't even want to be here tonight," and he would start talking about how he didn't even want to do the gig, but then he would be curious enough and introspective to where he'd find the funny in like talking about the fact that he's sick of stand-up, and it was kind of amazing because he was real prolific, man. I think sometimes I try to guess like, all right, where would Patrice be today? I kind of think like, like Bill Maher's got Real Time. I kind of feel like if Patrice had that or something like this, like I feel like he would be a real sort of somebody to put spotlight on shit.
But I don't know if he could punch a clock like Bill Maher and play the game that long.
Yeah, he definitely did not like the game.
Like corporate apology, play the game like Bill Maher.
Yeah, no, he definitely didn't seem to.
It's like we don't know.
But he was still a young man.
It's like a higher power. Like you just don't know. There's a mystery to Patrice that we'll never know.
But he was 42. And, I started figuring shit out right around 40, 41, 42. And you kind of go like, man, what could have been if he'd had really some more time to dig it out and figure out like, all right, who am I now as a man with everything that I've learned and everything I've gone through. But man, he impacted a lot of lives. I mean, honestly, to this day, I think like some of the comics that you see today that you love, that especially ones that live on the edge, that's because of Patrice.
He was on this podcast. I was at the St. Regis in New York. I was doing it out of the hotel room.
Yeah.
And he came up. Colin Quinn came by the room to say hi to Patrice. Like, I'm in a hotel. And also, it's like, I open the door. Colin's got like a room service tray, like pretending he's like a Chinese like busboy, like, "Hello." I'm like Attell walked up. Like, guys just came to see Patrice.
Yeah.
Sitting at a table doing a podcast. Like he was like this god. And we were talking about The Office. I go, "Why didn't you go back to The Office?" He goes, "Man, I don't know. Like, I go to work and fucking BJ Novak's looking at me. I don't know." Like he had no, and it's like it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I had to like convince him, like, no, they look at you because they can't conceive doing what you do.
Yeah.
And from being on a movie set, like, I'm gonna leave here and go do my actual real love.
Yeah.
And they're just like, "Oh no, this is my real love, and I know nothing else." Like, what do you mean? There's this other creepy, other underworld that we go to.
Right.
And then he just at the end of the podcast, he goes, "You know what, Jay Mohr? I'm fucking lazy." And I was like, but it was already an hour and a half at that point. I'm like, oh, like, yes. Like, he got there.
Yeah.
He would have been on SNL hosting, at least. Which you hosted. What's the hardest part of hosting SNL? And what's the most, I guess, surprising? I don't want to be like Barry Katz. What's the most surprising thing you learned in hindsight that someone told you on a Friday the day after the party with 3 zeros?
Hosting SNL. First of all, doing SNL was like... man, it was fucking wild. I just walk in the halls at night looking at all the pictures.
Yeah.
Like that alone was like, holy shit, this is...
Yeah.
There's a lot of moments that I remember like kind of like walking around and just like being backstage. The show itself was a blast. It was kind of, you just followed everybody's lead. The skits were whatever they were. Some were funny, hit or miss.
Sweater sketch
for the holiday one. I knew I'd made one that was like, all right, this one's going to be around for a minute.
How
but it was all about
did you host?
Twice. And it was pretty much back to back. I think I'm one of the only people that I ended the season and then I opened the season. And so, but what I think about mostly, the pressure was like that monologue, because Lauren said something to me the first time we met where he goes, I don't do a great Lauren impression, but
Dane.
I need a teleprompter and I'll just, we're sitting in his office and he's like, this show is about all of us. It's about the writers. It's about the cue cards. It's about the jokes. It's about the audience. He said, but the monologue is your show.
Jeez, thanks.
He goes, it's all yours. So focus on what you want to do and what you want to share there. And when that hit me, like, this is my show for, I think he gave me 11 minutes or 12, he gave me a good chunk of time too. And what I remember is I had a real dark bit about suicide. And because somebody I know had attempted suicide, and I was like struggling with it, and I was trying to find where the funny was, but at the same time I was sort of hurt by this experience. And I remember they fought me on it. The network was like, you're not going to do it. And then Lauren came in. He goes, does the bit mean a lot to you? And I said, it really does. And he just walked out of the room and he goes, you'll do the bit. And he went and he fought the fight for me. And he let me keep this chunk of material that I don't think you could even do it today. It was like real. It was real out there. But to me, that's what I think about when I think about the show. Like, man, just that experience of standing out there. I remember I could hear my dad laugh. He was at the second show. He was sick. My mom had already passed away. And my dad was like, I want to get to that show. And I said something about third or fourth bit in. And it gets me emotional, man, because I heard my dad, he had a real deep, and I heard that kind of, and it just kind of pierced through the crowd. And it was one of those moments where it was like, you know what? I'm on live television. I'm in front of this audience. I'm in front of these producers. And I don't really give a fuck because I just made my dad laugh. And I think since I was a little kid, that's all I wanted to hear, was that sound. So it was really beautiful. That's what I remember about SNL.
What was the hardest? Or let me ask you a better question.
Yeah.
Who was the writer or writers that you were like, oh, I'm going to just kind of,
Will Forte was like, the minute I walked into his office, he just had such a what is that? Like an oblique sense of humor, obtuse. It was so twisted. And he's like, he had this pitch about we're going to open we're water bottle salesmen. We're going to open up the closet. And those big giant plastic water bottles, he had about 1,000 of them through a chute. And he's like, and when we open the door, they're going to start pouring out. And for about 5 minutes, that's all that's going to happen. We're just going to react to more water bottles. We'd been stealing water, and the representative came to say, we think you might be stealing water from Sparkles or Sparklets or whatever. And man, I remember he pitched me on. I go, dude, everything I do on the show, I hope that you write. And so Will was really the guy that I just like followed his lead.
Was Bill Hader there when you were there?
Bill was there, but I'd go in and like write with him, and he was still new. He was still pretty new, but he came up with this thing called Cubicle Fight, which was one of the first digital shorts. Yeah. And so, I got to do that with Bill, and Kristen Wiig and I got to do one of her characters that got her on the show. So to be honest, it was like.
But you said the two guys that if I could turn back time, I'm like, man, I wish I worked with Will Forte and Bill Hader. Yeah. They just seemed like they were having the best time.
Yeah, like Bill genuinely, you could see, was like just excited to be fighting for his moments. And Will, I think, was sort of, he was getting his feet out, feet under him. And you could tell they trusted him with a lot of. So, I don't know, I just kind of felt like when I got in there, those guys were, they were so hungry and excited. And it reminded me of like how I felt. I was still, even though I was finally hosting the show, it was 14 years since I'd started doing stand-up. And the truth is, even though I'd broken through that year and I was doing, HBO stuff, for me, I was like, I'm only just starting to feel like I'm getting good. I think I'm pretty good at a few elements, and those things got me to a mainstream audience. But when I was watching those shows back, I was like, oh, fuck, I'm now starting to figure out where I want to take people.
But don't you think I feel the same way about my stand-up. I'm almost every 8 years. I'm like, now's when I'm really humming.
Yeah.
And then 8 years go by, and I'm like, that guy was a dick. Now I really got it. Now, and then coming out of rehab, and you actually gave me the best compliment at the Laugh Factory. I was just talking about being in rehab, and you said, we hear everything. There's nothing. He goes, Dane says to me, "There's nothing you and I haven't heard. You're on stage talking about your roommate in rehab," and I go, "Hold on a second. What did he just say?" And I was like, I got Dane's attention. Like, I felt like I made my dad laugh.
Oh, man.
Like, you have no idea. Like, that was so validating to me because
Yeah.
you're like, am I really going to go up and talk about my intervention? I showed him where my intervention was tonight.
It was so good, though. It was so present and real, and it was harrowing, but funny. And
If you don't laugh, you cry.
It's the best that I've seen you. You're the best I've seen you.
Thanks.
You're really in the pocket, man. It's kind of a fun dance to be able to like be on shows with you and see where he takes the crowd. Like, and what's weird is I was just on this last tour, and I'm out there with this kid, really funny guy, Drew Dunn, who's on the come up. I think he's gonna have a really, really big career.
Joe knows.
I know Drew. Yeah.
So I love this kid.
Yeah.
And so Drew, I came off stage and I go, wow, man, I just clicked into another level tonight. 34 years in on that. I go. I was like, it was like a Neo in the Matrix. I could see yeah, just a few months. I could see some numbers different. I could see, and then I go, wow. And I was sitting there going like, I want to hold on to this feeling, man. I'm better. I'm better tonight than I was. And then the fucking next night, I went up in the next city, and it was there again. The same feeling that I was like, oh shit, I'm fucking. I'm even. Which gigs?
What changed?
Oh,
Can I predict it?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm still
6 minutes. 6 minutes of new stuff that was clicked like a Lego into another piece. Finally, like that's what it is for me.
It wasn't.
You can say no.
No, because
being diplomatic.
No, because it was like, I think it was a few circumstances that came together. Where it's like, I won't get in the weeds on this, but like the way I build stand up is like this. Every bit is like this. It's there's 4 corners. It's a sandbox. There's 4 corners. This is funny. This is funny. This is funny. And once I get the 4 corners in of the funny idea, then I situate them, and then I want to every night be in the middle, and I want to be able to sort of go wherever. To that corner, and then maybe tonight. Oh, this tonight I'm going to say this. Sometimes I'll jump. Sometimes I'll skip a corner. I'll be like, "That I don't need that tonight." And I'll go to this corner because then if I always remember that one of them is the out, and I can stay in the middle, and I can really be introspective. I want to be introspective, and I want to really be curious, and I don't want to just deliver formulaic. I want to feel what I'm saying. I want to sort of like relive it so I can find more in it, and it's a conversation with the audience. It's not just an act. There are funny parts, but I don't want to just deliver the funny. And so what happened was I was up there sort of doing that. And on this particular night, I didn't go to any of the 4 prerequisites. I'd never done that. I found a new way to do the whole bit. And I was so calm, and I was so unafraid of. I was unafraid of not doing well. I was I didn't. Just journeying into the introspective moment and confidently going, I'll find the funny. I know I'm funny. Don't worry about that. And then finding a new way to express myself with an idea that I had come up with previously. Then the next night when I went out there, not only was it sort of waiting for me out there, like, oh, I feel it. This is still how I felt last night. But then I did the whole fucking show like that. So it was almost like a show where I had all these posts, but I didn't rely on most of them. So I was just taking the topics, and I was able to conversate and find new funny and not just rely on the things, the 4 posts. So it was like...
It's funny to hear your 4 posts because to me it's a triple helix. Whenever I have an hour, it's really just 3 bits.
Okay.
It's, rehab, couples, and, I can mix and match which 3 bits. And they fall together like a waterfall. When it's working, and I can call back at any time. You know what it is? you'll totally get this. The old switchboard operators where you had to plug the thing into the
Yeah,
hole.
yeah, yeah.
It's all night. I'm just going, I'll do this and I'll put this here. You know what? I'm going to put it here first instead of last.
Yeah.
And then I'm fucked. So now I got to find a new out. So then it's the fun math of that. People don't realize how you're spinning like 5,000 plates.
See, I love it because every comic, we all have our different way we are visual, whatever the way we need to present.
I didn't realize till recently that you write the way I write. You don't write shit down. There's no recorded history of me because I'm a terrible writer. I'm a great reporter. Mm-hmm. I've thought of this. I'm going to report back to you what I noticed, like you said earlier, at the car wash. I noticed this thing when I'm in the park. Like, this happened to me, and I will now report it to you.
Yeah.
Because if I sit down and write, I was at the mall, it's not the truth, like Patrice said.
Yeah.
It's a construct that's based on a lie.
Yeah.
And I can't bring that up.
And I respect people that have that, that real estate, that haiku. I love it. I love joke writers, and I really like them. So I admire
way to make
it.
a living, though.
Well,
The
because
pressure's on.
And you're so locked into that. You talk about that line for line for line. You can't deviate and come up with like a new way to do something that's like 8 words, 9 words, 3 words. I admire it, but it's certainly not the way I couldn't do it like that.
So you just think of something and then you go on stage and try it, right?
I try it, and I kind of describe it over the years like the movie Minority Report, when Tom Cruise sees all the screens up.
Yeah.
Like, that's how fast my brain works.
Yeah.
I'm not that fast off stage. My wife will even be like, how do you do what you do on stage? Because she knows that in my regular life, I'm sort of like, I'm figuring things out. But when I'm up there, I'm locked in, and I trust that sometimes Kelsey will go, that was funny tonight, but last week when you said the line about the blah blah blah, that made it even funnier. And I said, because I'm not meant to remember that tonight.
Well then,
that's it. I believe if I'm supposed to say it that
how much
night.
of it do you forget? Well, I'll walk off stage and Jeannie will go, "I love that you did that thing about ghost riding your bikes as kids," and I'm like, "Oh yeah," like I never would have remembered it unless she brought it up. It's almost like show-nesia.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's like if I remember it. Hopefully it'll find its way back in there. Some nights, a lot of things find their way back in there. But what I love about stand-up and what happened on those shows, and it's been like this, fortunately, for like now the last several months, is I hit this other area of this place of, I can only describe it, I guess, as like comfortability with the silence. Chappelle, when we were doing those college shows, like 93, 94, SUNY schools, doing all those SUNY. One night, Chappelle, I had gone up there. I was like fucking a whirling dervish.
Whack-a-mole.
I was like, I'm like a Tasmanian devil. And Dave goes on after me, and he crushes. And he was really like, like one of those nights where he was like, man, thinking about things, man. And then it was like these long. And then he comes and he crushes. And that night he came off stage and we were talking after. I'm toweling myself, but he's bone dry. I'm changing my shirt. My underwear is still damp. And I go, Dave, how do you do it? How did you do that, man? You really went on after I gave him hell. And he looked at me and, oh man, he goes, the power's in the silence, man. It was like game changer right there, fucking instantly, like explosion.
He's a jazz man. Like we're all doing rock and roll, and he's doing jazz.
Yeah, it's forget, like that one night was one of many nights where I would watch him and be like, oh, he's the greatest.
Oh yeah,
My
moment like that was so long ago, and I wish I stuck with it. I had to follow Red Johnny and the Round Guy at the University of Maine. These guys were a comedy team that rapped. 2 white guys.
Oh, dude.
They were, bro. On a scale of 1 to 10, they were 40. How hard they killed.
Whatever the best set you've ever seen somebody do, like quadruple it.
They did like public access commercials, like Art's used gun and ammo. I'm Art and I'm Art too. It was like no. So they go out and Barry, I think, was trying to like fuck with me. Like they're what? You can't follow a comedy team.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I was like, I'll fucking follow them. Like game on.
Yeah.
These guys killed so hard.
I'm coming.
I'm Red Johnny. I'm living check to check. Church. This weekend, come to church. Doing a little band at church.
Oh, man.
Like so I went up with a suit. They were wearing cargo. They were just like Tenacious D, essentially. So I went up in a suit, a Donna Karan suit and tie. Never took the mic out of the mic stand. Never took my hands out of my pockets. And I didn't get the 40. But I was chipping, at a 1 to 10, I was chipping 11.
Okay.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
You can't out-kitten a kitten. You cannot out-kitten a kitten. The only way to win a dick slinging contest is to not play.
Right.
That's what I learned that night.
Yeah.
The guys are going up and fucking killing. You might as well just go up and just, how about, like that Louis Anderson thing. Hey, keep it going wasn't he great? Sam! You know that one?
Yeah.
Sam Kinison kills, and Louis got to go up after him. He goes, hey, wasn't Sam great? Keep it going for Sam. Sam, come on back. One more time for Sam. And he does it like 8 times, and the audience is like sick of Sam. They're like, enough of Sam.
But brilliant, because he figured out a way to live in Sam's,
link the energy
in the fucking jet fumes.
In his sandbox.
Yeah.
He got to be in Sam's sandbox.
Yeah.
Do you have a joke that does better than you expect each time? Where like you're surprised by the response it gets? I've been asking all the comics this, like, wow, really? Because to you it's like, I'll say this, and then it gets this huge response, and you go, apparently I'm going to say this all the time.
There's a bit on my next special that that almost every single night, that the first laugh I get off it, I'm never thinking it's going to be, I always go, okay, I know the setup is intriguing, but they're not going to laugh. And the setup is, I was home one night, like 8 years ago, and I was watching a true crime show, like one of those ones that's on like what is it called? Like Criminal Investigations channel or whatever that shit.
That's all I watch.
And I'm in bed and I'm watching the show, and it's about this girl who is maybe murdered, but missing, and they found her car on the side of a snowy road in New Hampshire, and they're telling the story about like what happened this night, and they're putting the clues together, and then they cut to the girl's best friend. She's crying. Like on the edit, they didn't even like ramp in. They just cut to fucking Melissa, and she was. And they're talking about the missing girl, and I'm like in it with her. So at that moment, I'm like, oh my God, I feel it. And then she goes, it was such a great day because we had just come from the Dane Cook concert. And so when I hear this, what I really did and what I say in my act is I fucking jump, I rewind it, I jump up, and I'm pacing in my bedroom. And I run to my computer and I look up the date that she went missing. And I had a show that night 10 miles away from where they found her car. And the last thing she ever did in her life was come to see my show.
What a way to go out.
And so, but my line was, if I didn't do stand-up comedy, she would be alive today. And then the 8-minute story after that. But that's the bit. Like, that's the first line I go, it's not funny. It's really not funny.
Which part do you think that?
Well, because by the time...
I don't think it gets a laugh, and we just came from the Dane Cook concert.
Well,
that's got to get a reaction out of the crowd.
The build-up is all like, I'm building, and then the actual first line, I'm telling you what I did, but in the bit, the first line is I jumped out of the bed, and I said, I rewound it several times in a row, and then I go, you never want to hear your name involved, in somebody else's disappearance, and then they're kind of waiting, and then I go... I said, for the first time in my life, I thought something I never thought I would think, which was, did I murder this girl?
That can't be what you don't think is. That's fucking hilarious.
I said I had to omit myself as a suspect first. And when that gets the laugh, I'm always like, oh, fuck, okay, all right.
That's fucking hilarious.
Well, but still, it's an ominous, it's real. This is a real thing, man. She's still missing.
But doesn't that...
But that's the bit that I'm never sure of until I'm in it.
But that was a genuine feeling. Did I murder this girl? A split second of...
Yeah.
Because
at one point, you can't help but be like, She went missing. Did I meet her? Did she come to my show? Wait, I didn't murder the girl. Like you just go through that weird comic mentality of like weird shit that hits us.
I love this story. I love this story.
Oh, then the rest of it gets real mangy.
What's the name of this special?
It gets Gritty and Pink.
Yeah. And Yamava, February 28th.
Yeah.
You're playing big room still.
Yeah, man.
That's your longevity. I don't know anybody that's had it. Like, well, you know what? Stephen Wright, but not that size. But Barry said this to me once. He's the only guy when he popped 2,000 seat rooms, 25 years later, 2,000 seat rooms, and nothing but 2,000 seat rooms every year of the journey. You never see that. There's always this and that. But I think your personal roller coaster, it's almost like you were able to keep that at bay and almost like take it out on your career in a good way.
Yeah.
Like it made you almost pour all your energy into this because like both parents dying in the same year, like come on.
Yeah, it was also like I pointed this laser at these arena shows and I played 288 arena shows or something over 7 or 8 years. And when I went out and did Mohegan Sun, I did 8,000 at Mohegan Sun last year. And people were like, why don't you do another arena tour? And it's like, I don't crave. I did it. I fucking did it. Is it fun playing big shows? Yeah. Would I do another arena show? Yeah, of course. But
Being
I don't.
stuck in your own traffic.
I don't. The police escort in and out of your own show.
One time, Tampa, I'll never forget it. I'm like, I'm the reason I'm sitting here.
But the truth is this. There's so many other things that I love creatively in this business that I had a choice a year ago when I started building back up toward this, which was, do I want to do it again? Or do I want to point that laser at some things that now I told you about the documentary and some other. So I decided I don't need to, if it happens, great, but I don't need to relive. I did that. I did it to the hilt. I want to focus all that energy into some new things that I'm world building now.
You said something in my house that I don't want to lose track of, and that is the documentary you've been working on for 2 years. Mm-hmm. How do you love something for 2 years? But it's like, that's kind of like the story of Dane. Like, I love stand-up. I love this. I love that. You're not a tap-out guy.
But, okay, I can answer it. And the first thing that I thought of was the kid that came up and wanted to hang with you in New York City, 93. The kid that was in high school that found Al and the Monkees and all I've ever wanted to do. I love stand-up, but I love collaboration. I love stand-up, but I like that group element. I like feeling needed. I like feeling like I can be a piece of a puzzle you are trying to figure out. So when this director came to me and said, I want to tell your story about you and your brother and this crazy shit, I was like, oh, wait, I get to be the focus in a funny but meaningful way. But even more importantly is I get to work with a great group of documentary producers and filmmakers. And more than anything, Jay, like I love that. I want to help. I want to get stuff across the finish line, but I want to be of service and I want to help other people.
Speaks perfectly to why you would love doing Saturday Night Live as the host. You get to just be a puzzle piece in other people's.
Yeah. Like utilize me in a way that hopefully will help you to, make something entertaining. And if we both at the end of that feel like, I entertain my fans and you found more fans, I think that's like the place that I feel like my happiest.
You have exceptional nail care.
Thanks, bud.
Your nail beds?
Thanks,
Look
brother.
at that shit.
Yeah.
And you got like hockey hands.
That's it. I got the greatest wife. She'll see my fingers and be like, give me your hand. And I just sit there and watch TV and she's like.
My wife bought a massage table so she could massage me while she watches TV.
Oh, shit.
All right.
Love.
Like what? We hit this crazy jack. If people knew how good we really have it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to conceptualize.
Yeah,
Dane's like,
they'd hate you guys even more.
Do you guys? We are like the two fucking most talked about. So like, all we want to do is hang out and have a good time, including circling each other.
Yeah.
You got to come back because this went by so quick.
I want to just ask one thing before you go.
Yeah, of course.
God damn it, Joe.
I hope
10 inches.
I hope my memory is not betraying me, but we talked about your bits that stand out.
Yeah.
I remember the first one I saw that was like, holy shit. Why is everything wet? And when I heard it,
Yeah.
If my memory serves, was on Comics Come Home.
Yeah.
That you did with him.
Yeah. That was back.
You did walk-in. He did bathroom.
That's
Everything's wet.
Also, we did Monopoly ages 8 to adult because that's how long it takes to finish the game. Because usually it ends with somebody going, "I hate this game!" That fucking scream and flipping the board over.
But that bit, it's like, talk about like walk into a bathroom one day and you see like it's all fucking the whole
big
countertop
dog shaking.
Yeah, man.
I kicked out. Somebody came in and kicked down all the doors. I remember that. I think it was you guys, Marin, maybe Stephen Wright.
Yeah.
But I remember the walk-in story for the first time, and I remember coming in and kicking down the doors, and I was like, when I thought about this podcast, I was like, that fucking Comics Come Home was
man,
a big deal for me.
And I think the best is yet to come, man. You know,
Hey,
we're in great places, and you know, you wake up, you know, tenacious and creative, and you got love around you, and great fans. I mean, you know, the best is yet to come.
Undeniable, man.
Easy.
Dane Cook, episode 500. My man. Woo! Peace. Jay Moore's my uncle.